When it comes to what you mentioned earlier, sympathy voting, because you did mention that when we discussed, was there an effect after Vice President Sara Duterte was impeached by Congress? And now with the recent arrest of former President Duterte, a lot of people are wondering, nearing the elections, how would this affect the voter preference and voter sentiment? Have there been historical precedents on sympathy votes? Because for me, as an observer, just very recently in the US, we have Trump 2.0.
Right.
And some people were wondering, is this also related to some sort of sympathy vote? Because leading up to the US elections, he had several cases that were pending in the Supreme Court and even in New York, like so many cases against him. So what is your take on this? Is there any precedent you can think of?
Well, there definitely. I mean, former President Noynoy Aquino. I mean, I think he benefited from sympathy votes with the passing of former President Cory Aquino. So that's one example. And I think even former Vice President Leni Robredo herself benefited from sympathy votes.
When the
Yes.
husband Jesse Robredo passed away.
Passed away, right. But I think it won't always translate to sympathy votes. So sometimes it's the, how it's framed or the messaging, because sometimes it could be, there could be a bandwagon effect at the same time. Like, if there are more people against a certain person, then more people might, come together and say, okay, that, we're also against that person. What I mean is that, for example, more people might rally against. The former President Duterte is gaining or is seeing some support from the public right now in terms of protests and rallies. But what I mean is that there might be those who are against him, and that might influence other people to take a position against the Duterte family. So I think it can work both ways. So to your point, yes, we have seen examples of sympathy votes. And maybe even President Trump is a beneficiary of that. But how that will affect, I guess it depends. I mean, people were speculating that former Senator Laila De Lima, for example, would have sympathy votes if she ran for senator. But based on our pre-election surveys, I mean, from last year, she was not polling that high. So maybe, maybe whatever happened to her, the filing of cases against her, it happened a long time ago. So it does not translate to sympathy votes. In other words, if it's more recent, then it can definitely add sympathy votes to the person. So if we're talking about the presidential election in 2028, for example, if Vice President Sara Duterte is running, will the impeachment trial right now give her sympathy votes? Maybe that's a long time away.
Yeah.
And
but it's interesting you mentioned